is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes! The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it. Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And man, you guys thought this was going to be a quiet offseason for the Philadelphia Union. And what, January 20th? It's been anything but. I feel like this whole week, like, you guys wanted news, and it's been nonstop news for the Philadelphia Union this week. And I'm super excited because these guys pitched this idea to me on Twitter and said, how about we just come on together as a duo? And, you know, one of the guys, you guys will hear his voice. He's been on the podcast once, and the other guy's never been on the podcast before. He's making his debut. But if you guys have been on the Union Zoom calls, happy hour calls, of course you guys would have seen this guy. And if you guys don't know who I'm talking about Mr. Kyle Wood, and I'm talking about Evan, who played in last year's trivia contest. How you guys doing?
Ooh, hanging in. I'm hanging in.
Same here.
Yeah. Off season's been crazy. I'm so ready for it to come back. I'm going crazy.
Yeah, it hurts, right? It hurts a little bit when you see the club only make one signing and it's a loan signing. And now you have players that are going to be departing. You have some other players that could potentially leave this window. And there's no news for what players the Philadelphia Union could be bringing in. I mean, yeah, people look at and say, oh, look, this would be a good signing for the Philadelphia Union. Or you can go my route and take the bait and feel like, oh, you have the exact player they're going to sign, and that's not the player. So hopefully we get some news for the Philadelphia Union here in a little bit. But like I said, Evan, you've been on the podcast before, and I believe I asked you this question before, how you got into the Philadelphia Union. If I haven't, how about you tell everybody now how you got into the Philadelphia Union? How'd you get into soccer?
Yeah, so I have the very generic childhood story of I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old when they started out, and my dad came home with tickets, said, let's try this. When the DC game at the Link, I was sold right there. And I've been lucky enough to kind of grow up with the team. The team gets 3, 4, 5 years older, and I'm growing up, going through school, I'm showing up to school with my Union jersey. I always reference that my dad pulled me out of school with a fake doctor's appointment to go to the Open Cup final on time. And like, it's that kind of stuff. And then this season, I finally got into Sons of Ben, been able to get my first away trips, first time in the River End, all that kind of stuff. And it's after COVID, I've just been kind of going all in.
Absolutely. Love to hear. What away games you get to this year?
Kyle and I together went to Red Bull and then NYC on the last day.
All right, so I'm gonna write that down because we'll talk about that away trip. Kyle, this is your first time, like I said, on the podcast. Yes. I feel like people should know who you are, especially going to the game, seeing you wear your bucket hat. Like, how many people go to games wearing a bucket hat? Because there's not many that I've seen. And on top of all that, you wear a jersey that says Kyle the Baby, I believe, on the back. So it's like, you stand out, man. So how'd you get into the Philadelphia Union? How'd you get into soccer?
I mean, I kind of followed soccer all my life. You know, being a little kid, I was like, a little crackhead Messi fan, like most, kids these days. I think I went to my first Union game. I think I was maybe in middle school. It was a game against Montreal. It was on my birthday. And that game, I don't even think I watched the game. I ended up watching the Sons of Ben the whole time because it was just so crazy to me that they were being crazy for like the entire game. And then the game was just kind of something on the side. And then I think the season after that, so probably about 2018, we got like partial season tickets, and then we started going more often. I have season tickets now, like of my own. But after COVID and during COVID, we were all standing outside the stadium. That was all cool stuff. And I kind of been going crazy. And yeah, me and Evan went up. We went to North Jersey. We went to the Bronx. It's all fun stuff. It's all so fun. And it's making me happy. And I'm happy that I'm happy.
That's all we can ask for, right? Is things that find us happiness. And the Philadelphia Union, I'm sure for everybody that's listening, obviously the Philadelphia Union brought all three of us together. And What more can you ask for than the Philadelphia Union bringing people together? All right, so before we talk about that New York City away trip, how did you guys meet? Like, you guys pitched me this idea that you guys want to do a podcast together, and you said, "Oh, the people aren't ready." But then the people on Twitter are like, "Oh, we're ready for it." So here you guys are. So how'd you guys meet?
I had spoken to Kyle a few times a couple years back. Like, I loosely knew who he was, the bucket hat, of course, mostly through Union Happy Hour and all that. And then, oddly enough, early in last season, we talking with Sons of Ben Discord and all that, we ended up playing a lot of FIFA together. And I pitched the idea of Red Bull away on a random Thursday night. And that was the first of like 8 or 9 games we went to together that season, for the rest of the season.
So, yeah, that was kind of weird. Pitching that idea to my mom, hey, we should go to North Jersey and we're going to have a stranger sleep in our basement. Yeah, but it flew. She was cool with it. Actually, I think the first time that we ever like interacted with each other was like that Union, like their FIFA tournament that they did during COVID.
That's what it is.
Was how we met, and then we all got like a bunch of group of us together. And we had like a team, but it wasn't really a team. But we would just play and we were screwing around. Stopped talking a little bit, and then happy hour started up. We started talking again, and then all the away trips happened, and then next thing I know, I have this kid coming to my house all the way from Philly. He's coming to South Jersey, and then we're going to Union games together. It was,
Can I ever ask for anything better? So wait, did you guys get paired up against each other in that FIFA tournament that the Union did?
Yeah.
Yes,
no
we
way.
did.
That's awesome. So you got the win.
I beat him, and I will forever hold that against him.
What was the score?
I have no idea. But I just know I beat him.
I check that.
Ooh, Evan says, nah, not so fast, Kyle.
I know I beat you. I know I did.
We'll I'm looking this up later. We'll see.
I bet it's still there. I bet they still got that Discord server up.
Look, Adam Booth is doing stuff for the EMLS team for the Philadelphia Union. Let's have you guys have a rematch. Adam Booth commentates it, and we put the rest to bed. So I think that sounds like a great plan. Adam Booth, I'm sure, is listening, and let's pitch the idea to him. I think he's all in for it. And on top of that, since he has all these connections, let's get it on the big screen in Subaru Park. Like, let's go all out for this thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think Adam's still looking for his match against Jay Ajayi that he was trying to pitch to someone. I remember him bringing that up once. I think he's still trying to get that. So,
yeah. So I guess Adam gets his match against Jay Ajayi first, then you guys can get your game. But Jay Ajayi, I'm sure, is long gone from Philadelphia. But yeah, you guys said you went to the New York City away trip. What a crazy game that was, right? To see New York City get an early red card in that game, to see Leon Flock get his first goal. Leon Flock, of all people, score a goal. And it's like, okay, the Philadelphia Union should have this one in the bag. And then the second half starts, and it's all New York City, and they score. And yeah, New York City just kept putting the pressure on. What were your thoughts on that game?
I mean, the craziest part of that is it was so much less about our game being played on the field, and so much more about the 4 people in the row behind us with the Red Bull Nashville game on their phones. And once we knew like we were good with the draw, they scored. Obviously, it wasn't ideal, but we were purely there cheering for the draw. Every second that ticked away, we were going nuts. And I mean, to score and to shut up a lot of the people around us talking trash, it was a fun time.
Yeah, it was a really fun experience. So we weren't allowed to curse, which I thought was strange.
What?
Yeah, so we had like a single security guard standing there the whole time listening to what we were saying, making sure we didn't curse. And then there was these kids that was sitting next to us. They were cursing every 5 minutes, and we kept on like telling them that they can't say that stuff. It was really fun. But yeah, I mean, the game was crazy. The whole red card thing that kind of threw me off a little bit, because I kept forgetting that we had up a man, because we don't ever play like we're up a man.
Never.
We don't ever play it. But it was a good game, and I'm happy we went. It was a fun time.
So I'm going to assume you guys probably took the Sons of Ben charter bus up there. I've been to 2 away games, both of them last year, but I drove myself, flew down to Atlanta, and then drove down to DC. So I never did the bus. So what's the atmosphere like on the bus? Is it quiet? Is it loud? Or
It's an experience. Red Bull was a little different. Red Bull, it was like a Thursday afternoon. People coming from work and whatnot. That was a lot more chill, a lot more laid back, quicker ride. NYC was a 10 a.m. bus, bright and early. A lot of really bad movies, courtesy of Adam Booth, which I believe were played on repeat against the people's wishes. Just, it was almost as fun as the game, as just being on the bus for what felt like 4 or 5 hours just to get to Yankee Stadium.
If Adam is listening, if it makes you feel better, Adam, I didn't think the movies were bad. I thought they were okay. They were very mediocre, but I mean, they weren't awful.
Hey, you guys are selling me on this bus. So, when we go up to North Jersey, as you say, Kyle, I don't want to drive up there. And now you guys are selling me on this bus. And so hopefully people that are listening, they're like, okay, if I'm debating whether or not to take the bus or not to take the bus, well, hopefully Evan and Kyle sold you guys on going on a bus trip. The good thing is most of our games are on Saturdays and Sundays, so we don't have to worry about just a laid-back crowd going up to Red Bull Arena on a Thursday night. Yeah, I can't imagine what that atmosphere is like, and then especially when Red Bulls have a hard enough time selling out that stadium as is. I remember watching it on TV. It seemed like there was more of you guys there than New York Red Bull fans. It was crazy.
Yeah.
When we scored, you could definitely tell that there was a lot more of us than them. Yeah, it was kind of sad to see no fans there, but when you have such a terrible team, there's nothing you can do.
I don't know, right? We could have lost them in the playoffs, right? And I don't think Kyle would be saying right now that they're a terrible team, right? I feel like the games against New York Red Bull are always such close games, and we saw it even in the regular season. And look, happy we beat them in the playoffs. And since we're on the topic right now, before we get into the latest news, rumors, and everything, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on last season. I still see on social media some people are upset about the whole COVID situation that happened against New York City. But for me personally, I'm over that whole situation. I try to look at the whole season as a whole because, look, I feel like if we're going to live in the what-if moments, then I think it really takes away from what the Philadelphia Union did as a whole of the season. I get it, right? That's what sports are. It's always what-if moments. It's like, what if the Philadelphia Eagles didn't play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What could have happened? There's so many what-ifs in sports. So what are you guys' thoughts on finishing second place in the Eastern Conference, winning 2 playoff games, going to the semifinals against Club America? Just your thoughts overall.
I mean, it was a season unlike anything we've had before, so it's hard to compare it. But coming back from a year that although we were very successful, coming back from the pandemic, at least in the season sense and to a normal season, with so much uncertainty, I was nervous. With Aaronson and McKenzie gone, I was very nervous. I think I was in the minority that was more afraid of McKenzie's gap than Aaronson's, just with the history of our defense being shaky. But as the season went on, Champions League going well, it started to calm my nerves. Obviously, the summer stretch was atrocious, but we picked it back up. And by the time the playoffs came around, it felt like I felt as confident, if not more, than I had the season prior. And obviously, not a ton we could have done about the whole COVID situation. It's unfortunate, and that's kind of all I took it as. Sucks that it happened, but by Saturday or Sunday morning even, I was kind of just like, here's the lineup we've got. Nothing to lose here.
Yeah. That game against NYC in the playoffs, I wasn't expecting much from it. But obviously the group that went out there, they gave it their all, and you could see that, and it was great to see, especially Aurelian Collin, not seeing him play for how long?
2 years.
How long's it been? He had himself a night. It was great to see. Especially, knowing that we have that in our squad. Probably, even though he sits on the bench for most of the time, he's still a great weapon to have now that we know. But yeah, going into that game, we kind of really had nothing to lose. But it was still a great performance. And, obviously thinking about the entire season as a whole, you can't really be that upset. We did what we could with the squad that we had that day. But, we know we could have done better. Like, there was definitely the we could have done better, because we've seen, our team do way better, especially, having those guys that were out with that COVID protocol. So the what if kind of does kill you. It does kind of get to you. But, obviously next year is going to be a new year. So, there's another shot at it, right?
Yeah, that's what I like about Jack Elliott saying, it's Thursday, so Tuesday? Jack Elliott said that, the whole team's using that whole COVID situation as motivation, because even Jim Curtin today in his press conference said, look, we're not sneaking up on anybody in the league. Like, teams know that the Philadelphia Union are a top team. We can't have that underdog mentality anymore, because teams take us serious. And look, okay, well, we played well as underdogs, but now we're not underdogs. People know what to expect when they play the Philadelphia Union. But then Jack Elliott comes out and says, look, we found more motivation in, look, most of the team couldn't play in the conference final because of COVID. So we're going to take that anger, that energy, and put it into this season in 2022, because we believe that we have a squad that's good enough to reach the conference final again, to go into MLS Cup. And look, I know Kacper's gone, and we'll talk about him, and maybe some other players will be gone, and you might start to worry a little bit, well, what if we don't bring in players if we lose two of our best players? And I know people are like, oh, Kacper is not one of our best players. I'll get you guys thought on that here in a little bit. But as things stand right now, on Thursday night, we've only lost one player. That's Kacper Przybylko. And Jim Curtin did say a lot about, okay, look, we have a lot of money, and I'll play that clip here in a little bit. But yeah, I don't see why, as the team stands right now, why we can't make a run for MLS Cup next season. But let's go ahead and get your guys' thoughts on the latest news, rumors, all that jazz. First off, I want to get you guys' thoughts on Ray Gaddis signing for FC Cincinnati. So for people that haven't listened to the last two episodes, haven't seen on social media, Ray Gaddis came out of retirement, signs a 2-year deal with FC Cincinnati with an option for the 2024 season. As a guy said last episode, said, yeah, he's happy to retire, one club player. He's happy to play his whole career at the Philadelphia Union. Now's the right time for him to retire. And then takes a year out, and now he's back playing soccer again. Now, he's going to a team in Cincinnati that sucks defensively. They've sucked ever since they've been in MLS defensively, so they get stability from Ray Gaddis on the right side of the field. We know he can play on the left side of the field. They signed Alvis Powell, who's also a good defender, but neither one of these guys are good going forward. And for Cincinnati fans, thank goodness we don't have to worry about that, starting Ray Gaddis and Alvis Powell. Yeah, I don't see how they're going to have much attack on the flanks if they start both of those guys in the same team with Ray Gaddis on the left, Alvis Powell on the right. I don't think that will happen, but I'm happy, we have two fullbacks right now that are definitely upgrades over Ray Gaddis and Alvis Powell. But for a Cincinnati team that struggled defensively, you got to start someplace. So you got to prioritize defense over offense first, and you can't have it both ways. But what are you guys' thoughts on Ray Gaddis coming out of retirement for Cincinnati?
I don't know if the people are going to see it, but we both cringed when you said that. Like that, it doesn't offend me like Ray Gaddis joining them, because obviously he can do him. It's his choice. So they must have given him a good deal. But I don't think it makes a difference. Honestly, I think it's good for them. He's a good guy. It's obviously, a good addition for them, especially, they don't really have their team together exactly. So I think it's a step in the right direction for them.
I'm in a very similar boat. At first I was a little confused. I felt almost betrayed. And then I thought about it for 10 minutes and I realized the combination of things being, realistically, this season, I don't think he would have played much at all. And if he were to have played this last season for us, we would have been putting a better player on the bench, at least for our style. I loved Ray here. I think it was the end of his time here. I was a little surprised when he retired that quickly, but seeing him go to Cincinnati makes sense then. And then my other layer to it is I think about Aurelian Cohen coming here late in his career and it being two of the same guys running the show over there in Cincinnati now. You're bringing in a veteran who knows the league in and out. He's obviously not going to be the quickest guy or the best guy going forward, but for a team that's starting this kind of total rebuild, I think even if he's calling the shots from the bench, Gaddis, he's a great influence on young defenders coming up through their system. So I think it's a great move by Cincy. And I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, especially they have a young right back on the team, Zico Bailey, who at times was impressive and maybe not defensively, but offensively, he looked really promising, especially when he played against us. So, yeah, it's a great point that Ray Gaddis can mentor the younger players on this roster. And I just saw that they re-signed Harris Mendunian for this whole season with an option for the 2023 season as well. And I think that gets overlooked a lot, right? We all know that Harris wasn't the best defender here. Defense was non-existent when he was with the Philadelphia Union, but what he brought to the team was the leadership, and it goes back to your point about Colin. Look, what do we need out there against New York City without Ali Bedoya? We need a leadership. And what does Colin bring? He brings that leadership. And you saw Colin, you saw Stuart Finley, when we gave up that second goal, pick people up that fell straight to the ground. Bizo, Nate Harrion, they're like, come on, let's go. They had belief. And you even heard it in the stands. Like, people, like all the fans were cheering them on. They weren't like grunting. They didn't get quiet because, look, we can be honest with ourselves. When we've seen the Philadelphia Union go behind at home, which doesn't happen often, sometimes it gets really quiet in there in the Sons of Ben. People stop chanting. People have their arms crisscrossed, don't want to say anything. But that didn't happen at all against New York City. I mean, even before the game started, when the players are warming up, I've never seen that in my life, where the fans are all just chanting and everything, just telling these players, look, we're behind you. And to get a player like Ray Gaddis, to resign Harris Mendunian, look, even Elvis Powell's a veteran. I mean, I think these are great moves for Cincinnati, but I'm just happy that we're not in their situation where they probably expect to win a couple more games, but they're not going to be challenging for playoffs. And I'm just happy that we don't have to worry about that. But let's go ahead and talk about... I'm not going to talk about Kacper right now because I feel like we have so much to say about Kacper, so we'll save that for right now. Let's talk about RB Salzburg rejecting an offer for Brenden Aaronson. So Leeds United offered $20 million for Brenden Aaronson. Apparently, Leeds are expected to submit an improved bid, but I saw before we got on this podcast, Chris Smith, I believe it is, from 90 Minutes, reached out to Salzburg, and they said, absolutely not. We are not selling Brenden Aaronson at all this transfer window because they're in the Champions League, and I don't blame them. Unless they get absolutely blown away by an offer from Leeds United, I don't see Salzburg selling at all, and I think that works out well for the Philadelphia Union because we have a 20% sell-on clause. I said Leipzig. Maybe Leipzig one day. Salzburg went to us and said, here's $6 million for Brenden Aaronson. And then they added $3 million in incentives. So you're already looking at $9 million up front from Leeds United. But then the Philadelphia Union add that 20% sell-on clause. So if Salzburg would have accepted the $20 million offer, I don't think they would have been happy with that because they would have looked at $12 million and because they pay us the 20% fee for the sell-on clause. And so they bought him from us for basically $9 million. They're only making $3 million off of Brenden Aaronson. I don't think that's good enough business for Salzburg. And so, I mean, it makes perfect sense why they said no to that. But if you look, if like Salzburg get an offer from $30 million for Leeds United, you're looking at $6 million to the Philadelphia Union. That's a good amount of change. And, you know, I'm excited by that possibility. But look, if Salzburg put up a fight against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, if Salzburg, I don't think they're going to beat Bayern Munich, but if Brenden Aaronson plays well, where, you know, everybody watches these Champions League games, I don't see why Brenden Aaronson can't go higher than 30 million, maybe 40 million. And look, Philadelphia Union fans are like, go higher. Like the better Brenden Aaronson plays, the more money that we'll get. So what are you guys' thoughts on Salzburg turning down $20 million for Brenden Aaronson from Leeds United? Would you guys have accepted it if you're Salzburg? Do you think they did the right thing? Just what are your thoughts?
I'm personally thrilled. I mean, you highlighted most of the points, and I've been talking about this a lot the last 48 hours or so, especially on Twitter. I think the same way. With the $9 million they paid us, I think with the add-ons, and then a sell-on clause of $3 for whatever it's going to be, making a profit of a single digit, at least in the millions, not to underplay it, not enough for a player of that much quality. And so the more the price goes up, the happier I get. I think this is the best thing that can happen for us, because the only way he leaves in January right now is if there's a $30 million offer coming in, which $6 million, that's twice what we sold him for. That's Mark McKenzie and then some again, without having to lose anything, which would be, I mean, that's a club record sale off fees. And if they don't sell him now, we're looking at something in the summer where Leeds are probably staying up, but maybe changes some of it. And again, like you said, he impresses on the world stage in the knockout rounds. The higher that price goes, the more I'm smiling.
Look, and here's the other thing too, right? So at the end of the season, teams all over, not just the Premier League, they get money from the TV revenue, and then they get money from the competition. So teams in the summertime are going to have a lot more money to spend than they would right now in the winter. And so I hope Brenden Aaronson keeps playing well, because I would love to see Brenden Aaronson go for $40 million. And I mean, it's crazy to think what the Philadelphia Union could do with the amount of money they can get on the sell-on clause. And then, look, you look at Mark McKenzie. He also has a sell-on clause. Could he potentially leave Genk in the summertime? It's possible. Austin Trusty, I know he has a sell-on clause. He's been linked away with a move from Colorado Rapids. The Philadelphia Union can have a ton of money coming here on sell-on clauses. And like you said, Evan, for players that aren't even at the club anymore. So it's just a win-win-win. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Brenden Aaronson, he's insane. So I think his value is only going to go up. And I think it's smart for Salzburg to hold on to him for now. Obviously they have the Champions League, and he's been an absolute unit for them. But they're going to need him against Bayern. Obviously, he's going to be some kind of help. I'm going to be honest, the whole numbers thing, that's not really my thing. I don't pay that any mind. It's just, I just love seeing the kids going abroad. It's just crazy, especially because Brenden grew up literally the next town over from me. That's just crazy to me. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, how crazy is it to log in to social media every morning and see 10 to 20 articles in England written about Brenden Aaronson, linking him to a move to Leeds United, seeing Leeds United fans go crazy on social media to go ahead and find Brenden Aaronson's girlfriend on Instagram and say, yo, look, she's following Leeds United. It's a done deal. It's happening. He's coming to Leeds United. And I'm like, whoa, hold your horses right now. And I think, look, Brenden Aaronson, he's 20, 21 years old, and his girlfriend's not much younger than that or older than that. They know what they're doing, and I think they're doing a pretty good troll job where Brendan's like, hey, go ahead and follow Leeds United. Let's go ahead and drum up this interest, make this into a bigger deal than what it really is. And if Brenden Aaronson's not telling his girlfriend to do that, then shame on him. But I think those kids know what they're doing.
They got to know what they're doing. It only makes sense. They got to know.
Absolutely. But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead, guys, and talk about Kacper Przybylko. So I know nothing's official yet from Chicago Fire, but it's 100% a done deal that Kacper Przybylko is going to sign for Chicago Fire. The Chicago Fire are sending $1 million in game, plus maybe some incentives. I know I saw Jeff Carlisle for ESPN say that Chicago Fire aren't going to pay the $1 million up front. It's going to be split into 2 years. I saw Tom Burgert said that, it's going to be more than $1 million in game. So let's say $1.5 million in game. That's terrific business from the Philadelphia Union, especially when you consider the Philadelphia Union got Kacper Przybylko on a free. And, I've seen a lot of great takes for Kacper Przybylko. I've seen a lot of people that are celebrating that he's gone. And the one thing I'll say is, look, I get it from both sides why Casper's mad. Casper's upset because he felt like he was undervalued at the Philadelphia Union. He wanted a guaranteed contract where every single year the Philadelphia Union were just giving him an option. Granted, they were picking up that option, but he wanted some stability, and Chicago Fire are giving him that 3-year deal where he doesn't have to worry about getting injured. Because, look, we all know that Casper's had foot injuries over the years, and I know that probably plays a toll in his mind where he's like, okay, look, if I get hurt, and I'm done for the rest of the season, Philadelphia Union aren't going to pick me up again. Maybe nobody picks me up again. And so for Chicago Fire to say, here's a 3-year contract, you don't have to worry about anything. You're going to be a Chicago Fire for these 3 years. I'm sure that takes the whole world off of your shoulder. But, for Philadelphia Union's perspective, I know a lot of fans say, okay, well, we need to upgrade the striker position. I agree 100%. I've been saying that on the podcast, but my way of thinking was selling Corey Burke, who his value is definitely not there for what the value is for Kacper Przybylko. So if you were to sell Corey Burke, you're not going to get hardly anything back. And the striker on this team that has the highest value is Kacper, the leading goal scorer in CONCACAF Champions League. We saw him score 12 goals. I think I did a stat like 2 months ago maybe where Kacper was in the top 5 since 2019 of all players in MLS to score the most goals. I think he was number 5 on that list. So, I mean, look, I get why people want to move on from Kacper because he's inconsistent at times, but isn't that the story of the Philadelphia Union throughout their history? I mean, we've had so many strikers that are inconsistent, and I don't blame Kacper for wanting a guaranteed contract. I don't blame the Philadelphia Union for shopping Kacper. From what I've been told by somebody, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Maybe we'll find out from people in the next couple of days. I have no clue what that information is, but hopefully it's not as messy as the person made it seem like. But at the end of the day, I think, look, it's a business, right? I think some families just take things a little bit too personal, and I think fans probably take things a little bit too personal because at the end of the day, teams aren't here to keep your favorite player, here to keep fans happy and everything. It's a business, and so if they get a good enough offer, they're going to accept it, and that's for any player. It's not just Kacper. If somebody comes and says, we'll give you $10 million right now for Andre Blake, the Philadelphia Union are probably going to take that. I mean, it's a ton of money, which you can do, and granted, I know when you're selling players abroad, you don't get to spend all that money and everything, but you can invest that money back into the academy. You can go ahead and invest that money into actually getting good parking lots. Maybe you can go ahead and expand the stadium. I mean, there's so much you can do with that kind of money. So it doesn't have to go all into transfers, even though that's all what us fans want to see happen with the money. But your guys' thoughts on Kacper Przybylko being traded to the Chicago Fire?
I mean, I've been talking about this all day, and there's so much to it for me. I was never really solid on one side of anti-Kacper, pro-Kacper, which I know a lot of people were, especially on the mess that can be Union Twitter. But, I mean, I found myself the last season, even though numbers-wise it was probably his best, I found myself more and more often in that negative side of it, where from what I can tell, great personality, loved having him on the team, but it's, like you said, it's a business, and it'd be a really, really questionable decision to keep him around if there's an offer like that. I mean, if I recall correctly, I know he was brought in for free. I think he was brought in for Union too. At least I know he played quite a few games there and moved up from an injury or something. But I mean, it's a great piece of business in the long run. He scored 50-ish goals in the process for us. It's sad to see him go, but this team is one DP striker away from beating any other team in this league comfortably. I truly believe, and it's just time to step up.
Yeah. I see the takes on Twitter. A lot of people just straight up hate the guy. And it's really sad to say, the striker position, I was talking about it with some people earlier today. The position itself, it's always going to be streaky, is the word that we use to describe it. So, you're not always going to be as consistent at the striker position. But, it kind of goes back to, it's all in the business, he's just not getting it done for us anymore. And, it's definitely time to move on. But, don't get me wrong, though. He's a great guy. He's an amazing human being. It's just, it's sad to see so many people hate on this guy for absolutely no reason in the way that they are. And it's just sad.
Yeah, I feel that too. Some, even throughout the season, just seeing people's tweets, and even with Bizer, I talked about that after the New York City game, where people were just absolutely dogging on this guy because he made one mistake, and so many people dog on Kacper because he misses sitters, and you see that even with the best strikers in Europe, where they miss easy chances and everything. I forget what game it was, but I saw some player miss an absolute open net. I think it was in Germany. Actually, I remember who it was. It was Andre Silva for RB Leipzig, who I believe Leipzig paid £40 million for, and he absolutely skied the ball over the net. And it's like, here's a guy who's going for quadruple the amount of money that Kacper costs, making quadruple amount of money that Kacper is making, and he misses an open net. So it's like, you know what happens in the game, but it seems like some fans just take it so personal that, oh, Kacper missed this goal because I don't like him, and now I'm going to hate Kacper even more because he missed this goal. And I much rather would have had the Union try to sell Corey Burke, but like I said, his value is probably not there. I have no idea what you would get if you were to sell Corey Burke. Probably not much at all. But I would much rather have the Philadelphia Union have Kacper and then a new DP striker, like you said, Evan. Because you're right. That's literally all the Philadelphia Union need. If nobody else leaves the club, if they can get in a DP striker, this team's definitely going back to the playoffs. This team's making a run in the playoffs. I don't see why they couldn't be in the MLS Cup final, because we did miss a ton of chances. 45 goals we scored last season. Think about all the chances, not just Kacper missed, but we saw Sergio Santos miss multiple chances. Corey Burke missed chances. The list goes on and on and on. Some players get in positions where they should have shot instead of passing the ball. And it's like, like we talked about, there's so many what ifs in soccer, and so many people want to live in the past and just hold things over players just for what reason? Like, I mean, Kacper didn't miss to make fans mad. Like, that guy's trying as hard as anybody else on the field. But if a team's offering you $1+ million in game, how do you say no to that? Like, how? You don't. And if Kacper is like so upset with you where he said, you're not giving me a guaranteed contract, let's say the Philadelphia Union would have taken up Kacper's option for the 2023 season. And then Kacper says, I'm not signing with you guys again. And now he leaves as a free agent. Like, how much more angry would this fan base be if the Philadelphia Union let a striker that's scoring 10+ goals every season go for free? I'd be mad, and I'm sure you guys would be mad as well if Chicago Fire would have got this guy for free, or even with Kai Wagner. That's my biggest concern, is if Kai Wagner, after his contract's up after the 2023 season, if he leaves for a free, we all know he wants to go back to Europe. He's good enough to play in Europe, but none of the offers are there for Kai Wagner yet. And I'll play Jim's thoughts on that here in a little bit. But this is probably the best moment for the Philadelphia Union to sell Kacper Przybylko. 6 goals in the Champions League, 12 goals last season for the Union. And they can do a lot with money. And so I don't think the Philadelphia Union will not fill that spot. I think they probably have a couple players in mind. If people of this podcast listen, Kevin Kincaid had Jim Curtin on the podcast. They talked about looking at players that can dribble the ball well. Kevin Kincaid also got somebody to say, yeah, the Philadelphia Union are looking at a striker in Europe that scored 10+ goals the last 2 seasons. He's a young player. And that's when everybody went crazy last week or 2 weeks ago on social media trying to find out what player this was Kevin was talking about. So I think fans that are concerned that the Philadelphia Union won't fill the gap that Kacper's leaving, I don't think you guys have anything to worry about, because I think the Philadelphia Union will definitely take care of business. But just any more thoughts on Kacper Przybylko from you guys? It's, I mean, like, I always try to tell myself not to get attached to players, and like when I saw the news and once I heard that it was 100% official, I was like it touched me, and I really try not to get attached to these players. I don't buy players' jerseys because they always leave in MLS. We always see like 1-2 years and then they're gone. They're gone to another team, and Kacper's been here for 3 years, and I thought if anybody would be gone, it would be Corey Burke. But Corey Burke's still here. Sergio Santos is here, and Julian Carranza comes in on loan, and Kacper Przybylko is the one that's out. But, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but at the end of the day, it's business, and I don't know. I think the thing that probably bothers me the most is like people that are like taking Kacper missing goals like so personal, like it's an attack against them, and then people are absolutely dogging on this guy. Yeah, that just doesn't sit right with me. But, there's always going to be people like that in the fan base. But let's go ahead and talk about Kai Wagner. So he was linked away with a move to Watford and Espanyol. And nothing's happened. Jim Curtin talked today at the press conference and just, had a lot to say about Kacper Przybylko, had a lot to say about Kai Wagner. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say about the latest interest in Kai Wagner.
These players have aspirations, and each player is different individually. So, if you take Kai's situation, obviously when Kai came here from the third league in Germany, when he initially came in, his aspirations were to play in the highest league. And my job as a coach is try to develop him to get to that league. A lot of other things behind the scenes have to go on for it to work out, and the team has to be right, and the timing has to be right. There still is a possibility of him, a club coming for him. But as of right now, there's no concrete offers that we've received. So he's a Philadelphia Union player, and he's happy to do that and be here. But again, any player, I wouldn't want a player that doesn't want to play at the highest level and reach their maximum potential. And Kai's maximum is, for me, to play anywhere in Europe. I think he's that good.
So right there, I agree with Jim 100%. Kai definitely is good enough to play in Europe. We all know that, right? And I think that was interesting to hear Jim say, I don't want a player that doesn't have aspirations to play at the highest level. And we all know right now, MLS is a selling league. It's not a top league. It cannot compete against the Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga. We know if we get these young European players over here, they're going to want to go back to Europe, or they're going to want to go someplace else. They don't plan on staying in MLS their whole careers. And that's just the way that the Philadelphia Union are built. But I want to remind you guys, the listeners, we have 11 more days until the transfer window closes in Europe. And Jim says there's no concrete offers. And so the more days that pass by, the more and more likely that it's looking like Kai Wagner is going to be here at least until the summertime. And to hear Jim say that Kai is very happy to be a Philadelphia Union player, that's excellent, because we don't want players in the locker room that are angry to just disrupt the chemistry that the team has together. But what are you guys' thoughts on the rumors linking Kai Wagner with moves to Europe? Kai Wagner saying he wants to go back to Europe, but there's been no concrete offers. Kai Wagner says he's happy to stay here. And what are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, I completely agree with what you've said and what Jim said. I mean, I got into a lot of arguments about this in the offseason so far. I've said it time and time again. Kai Wagner was my player of the season last season, Blake included. I felt like he was just so consistently good the second half of the season, at least. He was the best player on the field 9 times out of 10. And I think, he doesn't play the most glamorous position on the field, but I mean, he's impressed me over and over and over and over. And I think just having him through July or August alone could be a huge difference maker. Like you said a couple minutes back, can't let his contract run out because we need to be able to get that fee. But if we can get even half a season out of him, that would be incredible, because he changes this team. And I'm a little bit okay about it because Harriel in that NYC game was phenomenal. Sorensen, even though we haven't gotten a chance to see him play with the first team, he looks really, really good. And I think I said this earlier when I was talking about Ray, is part of the reason we couldn't make room for Ray is we've got so many people at these outside back positions and we're just churning them out. So 6 months, a year more out of Kai pushes us into a playoff spot, into the playoffs, get a good fee, help him move on. And I think he's always wanted to play in the top league in Germany. He said in that interview a couple weeks back, if it's good for him, it's good for us. We've got replacements lined up. It's an absolute win if we can keep him for some or all of the season.
Kai is definitely, a big part of our team right now. He's playing a big role. He's definitely one of those players that we're going to want to keep for as long as we can. I do think he's good enough for Europe. Where in Europe he'd possibly want to go, I have no idea. But I think wherever it ends up being, he would definitely make it. He definitely plays at a high enough caliber where, he could get by in Europe. And I think we could get a decent amount for him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've always said $5+ million. And again, I'll say what Manuel Veth of Transfer Market said. He said, look in February for Kai Wagner and just players in general, their values to go up in February. They haven't updated the site since November. They're working on scouting the players, looking at, okay, did they go up? Did they go down? And he said he expects Kai Wagner to go up significantly. So Kai Wagner, I believe right now is listed at $3.3 million. Don't be surprised if Kai Wagner is up there at $5 million. And the Philadelphia Union, I'm sure, probably asking close to that number, maybe a little bit more. But here is some news for all you listeners, for you guys. It caught me by surprise listening to Jim talk about it, but he did say that Matt Real has accepted the Philadelphia Union's bona fide offer, which means that Matt Real will be a player for the rest of the season. Now, whether or not they can work out a long-term deal is to be determined. But look, like you said, Evan, if we keep Kai Wagner here until June, until July, and then Matt Real fills in, or let's say Anton Sorensen's just absolutely dominating in practices. He's played a couple games this season, and maybe he's ready to take that next step up instead of Matt Real or Leon Flocking thrown there at the left back. Like you said, Nate Harriel is a natural right-footed player, played excellently on the left against New York City. So we have a lot of options, but just the more and more days that pass by, I think Kai Wagner is going to be here at least until the summertime, and we can all agree that it's going to be good for the Philadelphia Union. But let's go ahead and talk about another player, the only player that the Philadelphia Union have signed so far this season. That is Julian Carranza. My question to you guys, would you guys be confident if it is just those three strikers?
So I'm torn on this. I've been going back and forth since the day that deal was done. I think we still need... I think this buys us some time. This buys us till maybe the summer. I hate to be pessimistic. I think this buys us till the summer to see if we can work out that big name, that big DP signing at the number 9. But I think this is one of the best pieces of business I've seen the Union do in a while. I mean, it's basically zero risk. We gave up a second-round pick and maybe a little cash to a player who was very, very highly rated when he came into the league. And although he was awful in Miami, new scenery, I wouldn't say nearly as high expectations, and possibly a chance to be the number 9 starter week in, week out, at least for part of the season. If it doesn't work out, we lose nothing. If it does work out, amazing. And I couldn't get over how good of a piece of business this was when it came through on my phone a couple weeks back.
Yeah. Jim's expressed his, that he's really positive about this new signing that we have. And even though it's just a loan, I think, it's a step closer to a DP striker. Obviously they said that they weren't done bringing anyone in yet. There's still more to come. And I'm excited for that. We got 37 days till the regular season starts. Hoping one of those days something exciting happens and we get our striker. Maybe not. I mean, I doubt it because that's so Union, right? That's right. That's the line.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with what we have, and I'm excited to see it in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys talked about it. Jim Curtin's been positive on Julian Carranza, so let's go ahead and hear what Jim Curtin has to say about Julian Carranza so far in training. Yeah,
look, Julian comes and joins us, with obviously a very high pedigree, and when Miami, made a move for him a couple years back, he had a little bit of an unfortunate injury. Obviously, they signed Higuain, so playing time and minutes were something that maybe weren't there for him. But you can certainly see his talent, the way he moves in and around the goal. He has natural, goal scoring instincts. He really attacks the ball when there's service in the box. We're a team that likes to put the ball in that red zone, in that danger area quite a bit. And I'll just say he's been on the end of a lot of goals in practice. Obviously, games are another thing, and we want that to carry over to the games. So once we start to get those against MLS competition in the preseason down in Florida, I think he'll only get better and better in our environment. I think he's blended in well with the guys. But certainly, the attacking quality that he brings a little something different from our other strikers. And that's not a knock on our other strikers, but it's just his style is a little bit different, where maybe some of our guys move the same way. He's a little bit in and around the goal, has different instincts and tendencies, and I think has a little bit of hunger, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to get playing time. So you're seeing that, which is a real positive thing. And look, we're a team that puts a lot of balls into the penalty area. So any striker in our system, if we're doing our job, is going to get on the end of things and get on the end of crosses. And it'll be up to him to finish things off. There still will be an adjustment period, obviously, to the defensive work. And I think he's learning that now, but he's been very eager to learn, working hard off the ball, and he'll get caught up to speed in our environment and with the different principles that we want out of our strikers. But overall, very impressive so far.
It echoes what I was saying earlier. I think you never know with a lot of these MLS signings, especially when players come from out of league. I know he had a stop in Miami, but couldn't get a ton of playing time. A lot of these players that do really, really, really well aren't always the biggest name signings that come here. And I mean, if he's got these different instincts, as Jim likes to say here, I hope that means he can put the ball in the net a little bit better, a little bit more consistently than some of the other guys. Not a knock on them, but we've had some inconsistency up top. And I think, like I was saying, worst case scenario, he goes back after the loan and it doesn't work out. Best case scenario, maybe it's a hidden gem that we found for next to nothing.
Yeah, again, it's nice to hear that Jim's being really positive about this. Obviously, he mentioned that the chip on his shoulder, and Jim sounds really excited to see it. He's talking about it like in practice. Obviously he said that he's fitting in really well, and I'm really happy to hear that. It's hard to get that sometimes, but I'm just so excited to see what he can do. Obviously we can't watch practice, so I just kind of got to take Jim's word for it right now. But Jim's a smart guy, so I'm sure he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one thing I will say for fans that listen to that clip, and I think we're all smart enough to know this, right? What happens in practice doesn't always translate to what happens into a game. And watching Matthias Daver practice last season a couple times and watching what he posted on Instagram of his training sessions, dude looked great in practice, but only played one time for us last season. So maybe not get your hoops up too high, but look, there's a guy who's having a full preseason for the Philadelphia Union. Like Jim said, he's learning the defensive cues, learning how we want to play defensively. And it is nice to hear that Julian Carranza offers something a little bit different than any of our other strikers. And so, like I talked about a little bit ago about, well, since we're selling Kacper Przybylko, should fans be worried at all if we don't bring in a player? Are we going to bring in a player? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say in regards to that.
I know how Ernst operates and how I operate. We always want to improve and we always want to get better. So there's a reason we would acquire things like allocation money or whatever it might be. And we have a pretty good, I'll just say, chest of allocation money right now as it stands today, and possibly even more coming in. But we're certainly going to use that to really upgrade the roster. So if you're asking me, are things done and is this the final roster? Just like every other MLS team, I'd say, right now, absolutely not. It's not finished, and we'll always be looking to add some pieces to the group.
All right, so look, we finally can get Jim Curtin to admit that we have money to spend. All I am asking, look, G. Sugarman, you're not even having to spend any of your own money. We're getting money from selling players for selling fees. Just please sign a player. Like you don't have to spend any of your own money. That's the only thing I would say about this. But just for people that are afraid that, okay, well, the Philadelphia Union aren't going to spend money, Jim Curtin admitted that we have money to spend and more money could potentially be coming in. So I don't think fans need to worry at all about the Philadelphia Union not spending money because the money's actually there, and it's just a matter of Jay Sugarman spending it, and it's not even his money to spend. We're getting money from players that we sold. So do the right thing, bring in players, and I think we'll all be happy. But you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what kind of players are the Philadelphia Union targeting? And this is what Jim Curtin had to say in regards to that. Obviously,
in Corey, a good target. In Sergio, you have a guy, like you said, a slasher that will run in behind and stretch a defense. Carranza brings a little bit of both. He can hold the ball. But again, his movement is really to get in behind and stretch things. Obviously, last year towards the end of the year, we only played with one striker. That wasn't by choice. That was by a little bit of a lack of form from some strikers and also some injuries from some strikers that we played with the 210s. But we prefer to play with two strikers up there. So I think you're answering your own question. That other one will probably be a target type of guy, but also one that gets goals. Because like you said, we have to find a way to score goals at the end of the day. And obviously everybody in the league and in the world is looking for goal scorers. So we'll continue to look and try to find a good fit for us as well.
Well, everybody, after you're done listening to the podcast, getting on Transfer Market, look at target strikers, and I'm sure we'll have some more names, and Union Twitter will be going crazy, like, oh, I just found this player, and that's going to cost this much money, and he's a target striker, he's a hold-up striker, this is who we should get, he plays in Europe, he's not going to cost us a lot, and he's young. So I can't wait until we see more names that people find on social media. Yeah, it is great to hear Jim say that we're looking at another target striker, a striker that can put the ball in the back of the net, but he is right. This time of the year when teams in Europe are fighting for relegation and promotion, they're looking for players that can put the ball in the back of the net, like we saw with Daryl DK going to West Brom in hopes to get them promoted. We saw Ricardo Pepe go to Augsburg in hopes of keeping them in the Bundesliga. So, it's not just teams in MLS. It's teams all over the world that the Philadelphia Union are going to be fighting against, and especially in the winter transfer market, which closes in 11 days. And like you said, Evan, you said if a move happens, you wouldn't be surprised if it's in the summertime where, if teams sell a player, they'll have time to go ahead and scout another player to replace that player that's leaving, which makes total sense to me. But if the Philadelphia Union can convince a team right now to let go of X player, I'm all for it. Your guys' thoughts, and we'll probably close with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what I've been saying, which is it might happen now. It's more likely in the summer, especially if there's an Aaronson bonus of $5 million or more coming in. Kai Wagner could leave in the summer. That could be another 5. I know it would be a quick turnaround there, but even the promise of possibly 10 million more coming in, if we're going to make that big trademark MLS splash, whether it's a young player we're investing in who's got potential and has proven it and has interest, or not my preference, but an older, I know Daniel Sturridge rumors and Luis Suarez rumors swirl around every 2 weeks. Not my preference, but anything I'll take, really. And we've got the money. We've got the open spot. I think we as fans, Jim Curtin especially, as the coach of all this time, he's owed a striker. I don't want to say we're owed anything, but this team needs a striker, and I think it is that one player away.
Honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as Evan. Whatever we can get, I'll take it. Whoever we end up getting, I'm ready to welcome them. And I just hope whoever it is can get stuff done for us, I don't know. It's a rough spot for me because, we're kind of rough on strikers. Like, we've never really had a striker that we relied on, you know what I mean? Like, it's always been a rough spot for us. And, having 3 of them that are kind of iffy at times, and we kind of got to rely on our 10s to get it done. It's just, it's kind of rough, but, I just trust our team, that they're going to bring in the right guys.
You said it's always been rough, and one thing, we don't have time to get into this, and maybe another episode, I definitely got to bring this up on another podcast, but my one concern, and I don't see fans talking about this at all on social media, is why can the Philadelphia Union not produce a striker in their academy? We see them produce midfielders, we see them produce center backs all the time. No striker. We have not seen any striker come out of the academy. And maybe if we could produce a striker, we wouldn't see the Philadelphia Union always, every transfer window, it seems like, looking for a striker because, we have Jack DeVries, and I guess he can play striker, or Quinn Sullivan can play striker, but these guys are more wingers, in my opinion. And we know the Philadelphia Union don't use wingers. And I know, like we talked about earlier on Kevin Kincaid's podcast, Jim said, maybe they'll look for a player that's a winger that can dribble because it's a lost art. I mean, maybe they have those players already in Jack DeVries and Quinn Sullivan. I don't know. We saw Quinn, I feel like, early in the season, and then as the season went on, less and less of Quinn Sullivan. I mean, it's like he scored that bicycle kick against Chicago Fire, and then that's the last we saw of Quinn Sullivan. But look, I'm confident. It sucks to lose Kacper. If we lose anybody else this winter, it's going to suck to lose them too. But to hear Jim say, yeah, we have plenty of money, to hear him say, yeah, Ernst Tanner knows that we got to spend the money. You know these guys are always looking ahead just in case we lose players. You know that Ernst Tanner probably has 2 or 3 targets in each position in case somebody gets sold if they get blown away with an offer. And so, yeah, it might not be a Kacper Przybylko, it might not be Kai Wagner, but it's like more times than not, Ernst Tanner hasn't failed us, so why would he fail us now? So just any more thoughts on the offseason so far for the Philadelphia Union? Any expectations for next season? Whatever you guys have left to say, go ahead.
I've got the one more piece, which I just didn't get a chance to mention through any other question, which is I'm incredibly excited for both of our 10s this upcoming season. Montero, I think after everything in the summer kind of got resolved, at least hopefully resolved, I think he really, really found his form again. And even more excited for Gazdag. I think with a full offseason, he played some ridiculous number of games between the 2 leagues last season. He went from the end of a season to the beginning third of one. And he's the most creative player I've seen outside of Montero. He's the most creative player I've seen the Union have in years. And I'm really hoping for big things from him, especially if he's got these targets to send the ball through to, hopefully. But I think everything, the defense has been sorted. Blake, of course, midfield's getting there. I keep saying this over and over, we're that one piece away.
We are, and I mean, just listening to you explain it, like I really am so excited because we know our back four, and then El Brujo. We know that those guys are solid. I mean, we see us have the fewest goals conceded year after year. It feels like. Well, I know last season we were tied for second fewest, but we don't ever give up a ton of goals. And we know, like you said, to see Jack Elliott, Jacob Glesnes, and Andre Blake last season, all of them extend their contract, knowing that we have them here for a couple more seasons. We're good defensively. But to see, like you said, Daniel Gazdag get that much-needed rest, to see him actually get a full preseason in with the Philadelphia Union, oh, man. And if we do bring in a DP striker that can put the ball in the back of the net, Julian Carranza is in a system where he didn't have the creative players like we do here in Philadelphia. He didn't have those players in Miami. And I don't know. This guy, like, if he scored 20-plus goals, would I be surprised? No, because like you said, like Jim Curtin said, this guy was highly sought after in coming out of Argentina, and Miami spent $6 million for him. And I know Union fans hate saying, well, we got to play that $6 million. I mean, technically we did, right? And he didn't have the creative players in Miami. He has them now in Philadelphia. And, I can't wait to see him step foot in his first game for the Philadelphia Union. And look, we didn't even talk about that. Maybe that is why the Philadelphia Union got rid of Kacper Przybylko too, because Julian Carranza is expecting to start. Kacper is going to expect to start. So they get an offer they couldn't turn down, and see you, Kacper, and we give the starting spot to Julian Carranza. But man, I'm just so excited. Kyle, any last words?
Honestly, Union off seasons, I see this picture a lot on Twitter. It's just a little stick figure. He's got like a stick in his hand and he's poking a rock. Like, do something. Like it's just like that every day. Like, just check and see if something's going on. It's just funny to me. Like, that picture is just all I think about. Just, a guy poking a rock. It's funny.
I don't know. I mean, we've been getting news, right? I think what we all want is an announcement of a signing. So if that happens, I think we're quiet down. Maybe not for I was going to say for a long time, but nah. There's no keeping this fan base quiet, because Union Twitter, it's as soon as they find something to talk about, it goes on for hours. But Evan and Kyle, it's been a blast having you both on the podcast. Again, Evan, second time on. Kyle, your first time on. And love to have you guys both on during the season to talk about a game, either previewing a game, to talk about how we thought a game went. But where can people find you guys on social media if they are not following you yet?
You got me on Twitter, Kyle the Baby. You look that up. The profile picture, it's me with the bucket hat. You got me on Instagram. I don't really use Instagram, if I'm honest. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, for some decent takes sprinkled into very bad ones, SOB_Evan. I'm try to be in the Sons of Men Discord when I can be, but I often forget.
Yeah, and don't forget to check these guys' big match with commentary by Adam Booth and FIFA. I don't know when we're going to get that arranged, but that is definitely something Adam Booth should talk to the people at the Philadelphia Union about, getting these guys playing on the big screen. Look, even after a game, like, man, I have so many ideas for your game. Like, as the players are going off the field, you know, the fans are leaving the stadium. Well, I mean, that's the perfect time. Like, you guys are already in the stadium, and I know they got those PlayStations hooked up, multiple PlayStations in the new gaming center. Get that hooked up to the TV, and you guys are good to go. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick, and be on the lookout for another 2 guests next episode. I'll let you guys try to figure out who the 2 are. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.